The U.S. says if left unchecked, Muammar Gaddafi will continue committing atrocities against his own people. And President Barack Obama says the Libyan leader must follow a UN Security Council resolution and halt his attacks.
If Gaddafi does not comply with the resolution, the international community will impose consequences, and the resolution will be enforced through military action.
The likely first step would involve attacking Libya's air defenses along its northern coast to allow Allied aircraft to enforce a no-fly zone without fear of attack. The U.S. has ships and warplanes within striking distance of Libya in the Mediterranean, including submarines and surface ships carrying Tomahawk missiles.
We've pretty much got the capability to hit not only the major radars, but probably the major command and control nodes.
But actually enforcing a no-fly zone is a big undertaking.
You're going to have to maintain probably, let's say, 12 to 24 airplanes in the sky continuously, indefinitely.
Meaning hundreds would need to be available. Great Britain and France had both been pushing hard for a no-fly zone and are providing aircraft.
I can tell the House that Britain will deploy Tornadoes and Typhoons, as well as air-to-air refueling and surveillance aircraft.
The U.S. has not discussed its own role in any detail. Its nearest aircraft carrier is far off to the east, supporting the Afghan war. The Pentagon has not given any indication it plans to move more firepower toward Libya. Sagar Meghani, The Associated.
Nigel Farage has the floor.
Mr Van Rompuy, I hope you'll resist the calls for military action this afternoon. Indeed, the Liberal leader, Mr Verhofstadt, made a very pro-war speech. I hope you will resist that on the grounds that there is no legitimacy or consent for the European Union to take military action, and that experience shows that if you go into military action, that may be easy, but getting out of it can be rather more difficult, and getting involved in Libya could indeed be a Vietnam-type experience. So please resist it. But on Colonel Gaddafi himself, you were quite right to say that what's happening in Libya is really very wrong indeed. But of course we knew that even before the uprising. Just last year he declared a holy war, a jihad, against the Swiss. He tried to blackmail the European Union. Do you remember? He said, give us 5 billion euros or we'll flood you with migrants. And of course he's the man who was happy to embrace al-Megrahi, the man who committed the biggest ever mass murder in British history. But what you didn't tell us in your speech was about the fact that you actually know Mr Gaddafi. Indeed, you went to meet him in December, didn't you? Do you remember? In fact, there's a jolly nice photograph of you and Mr Gaddafi holding hands. In fact, I have to say, I've never seen you smiling more or looking happier. Perhaps he's an old drinking mate. I don't know. But I wonder why. Why would you want to be photographed with Mr Gaddafi? And I put it to you that it could well be that since you were appointed as President of Europe and your sidekick, the noble Baroness Ashton, became the High Representative for Foreign Affairs, that you know that you've been seen on the global stage like a couple of political pygmies. As WikiLeaks showed, you were very unhappy that you weren't being recognised, unhappy that you were snubbed by Obama, and here was the chance to go along and be accepted by a head of state. I don't think that you there parading with dictators was a very good or a sensible thing to do. Indeed, not just you, the British Labour government made similar mistakes. But I do ask you, at this juncture, and with the horrendous things that are going on in Libya, I do ask you, do you accept that it was an error to be photographed as recently as December with Colonel Gaddafi, and will you please, if you do, apologise for it? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Masked and still defiant, the village of Jedhus, just outside the capital Manama, one of scores of Shia areas where clashes broke out a day after the military operation on Pearl Roundabout. Local youth tried to keep security forces out. The police are determined to assert their control. To many here, this is now the only means of protest. Some of their political leaders arrested, the right to peacefully gather stamped out. All carried out by state security forces who are often not even citizens.
No one of them Bahraini, all of them from Pakistan, from Saudi, from Yemen, from Syria, all of them. No one Bahraini.
Families take cover in their houses. The injured are rushed inside.
We cannot take anywhere because all of the way it's blocking by the military and the police. There's no hospital because already the hospital, which is the main hospital, Salmania Hospital, been held by military, which is we cannot go there.
Amid reports medical staff are being targeted, we find this ambulance. Further on at the village of Sitra, we find the family of one of the protesters killed. The car he was travelling in is testimony to the violence that continues. Al Jazeera has heard repeated claims military operations were not only carried out on the ground.
By my eye, I see helicopter. It's from BDF, and there is one soldier. He have big gun, and he start and shooting us.
I advise you, dear people, despite all the wrongdoing, to maintain the peaceful nature of the uprising and not to confront the security forces, as there's no sense in confrontation. And I advise you to safeguard people's lives and to show these forces at a disadvantage through our peaceful nature.
At Pearl Roundabout, a clean-up is underway. Bulldozers are moving in. There are reports the giant landmark, a potent symbol of the protests, may be demolished. Bahrain's state crackdown continues to bring international condemnation. The authorities may be cleaning up the evidence of what has happened at Pearl Roundabout, but the causes of this protest won't disappear so easily.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Sunday, March 20th, 2011, and I'm Darko. Welcome everyone. This is my website, www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. You can subscribe here via FeedBurner, or you can follow me on Blogger right here. Or if you go down, if you have a Facebook account, you can also follow me on Facebook. So there's a poll on here right now. There's only 1 day left on how much danger does Japan's nuclear radiation epidemic affect the rest of the world. As of right now, it's 65% say very much, following 21% saying somewhat. So you can check that out. We're going to start off with this article. Arab League slams Western invasion of Libya. It says the Arab League has strongly criticized the West military airstrikes on Libya since they resulted in civilian casualties almost immediately after invasion. Arab League Secretary General says the military intervention in Libya differs from a UN resolution that authorizes imposing a no-fly zone over the country. Quote, what is happening in Libya differs from the aim of imposing a no-fly zone, and what we want is the protection of civilians and not the bombardment of more civilians, he said on Sunday. And then we have this article, Arabs back Allied offensive on Libya as leader Qaddafi remains defiant. So now it's saying that they back them. Middle Eastern leaders backed an offensive by international forces seeking to protect Libyan civilians, as President Muammar Gaddafi said his country would become hell for the monsters attacking it. Then we move on to this. Arab League criticizes Western airstrikes. So they obviously aren't for it, right? The Arab League has criticized Western military strikes, and it's not just Western, right? It's the, quote, international community. That's why I call my website Global Government News, because that's what we have. Yet no one will ever talk about it or refer to it as that, right? And talk about military strikes on Libya, despite Britain, France indicating that Arab involvement was imminent, and even though it had itself urged a no-fly zone. Sorry about that. What has happened in Libya differs from the goal of imposing a no-fly zone, and what we want is the protection of civilians, Arab League Secretary, and that's what we just said, right? We move on to the OIC. The Organization of Islamic Conference Secretary General has rejected any foreign military intervention in troubled Libya. And mind you, I posted a poll just in my most recent videos that said most Americans are against this too. So I mean, I don't know who the hell is for it, but like everything else, like they just passed the a financial martial law bill in Michigan, or they're coming back with the health care bill. They just keep moving forward, and if they don't get what they want, I'm talking about the powers that be, the globalists, communist, fascist, eugenicists is pretty much what is a good description for them. Whatever they want, they usually get it. And right now you have your future president, Sarah Palin, over in Israel celebrating as they close the gates to Gaza and all the roads and that. So a lot of stuff going on right now, and we're going to move on to now Bush bombed Iraq March 19th, 2003. Obama bombed Libya March 19th, 2011. And when I saw this, man, it just it kind of aggravated me because everything happens with numbers with these people, with these I don't even know what they worship, but you know, they love numbers, numerology, and they love certain types of codes and symbols, especially symbols. And so I was just wondering, I'm like, well, they probably could have just bombed Libya whenever the hell they wanted to, but they just waited for this date just so they can match it up with the invasion of what? Iraq, where they took out what? Another puppet dictator that was placed there by the West, right? In an oil-rich country. So we're going to move on. Report U.S. allies launch broadest international military effort since Iraq war. And then we have world intervenes in Libya with unusual speed. Oh, unusual speed. Gaddafi vows long war as strikes hit his forces and unusual speed, which is a bunch of crap, right? It's this is the military-industrial complex, man. You know, they're licking their chops. They're going to make millions, if not billions, of dollars off this. So hey, you know, this is why they're moving so fast. And it says here, Gaddafi vows long war as strikes hit his forces. Then we have 48 dead. Gaddafi wants revenge. Then Gaddafi vows to repel Christian states as Mullen says no-fly zone has been set up. Then we have Gaddafi says he will arm all Libyans to defend the nation. And the first address to the nation since the launch of military intervention against Libyan forces, Gaddafi said via television he would open all armed depots and arm all civilians to protect Libya. And not all Libyans are, you know, for this no-fly zone. Not all Libyans are against Gaddafi. Whatever you have to say about the man, they're not all against him because you have this. At Gaddafi compound, a human shield. Even as the Allied intervention begins, a group of foreign journalists were bussed on rare visits inside Colonel Gaddafi's compound, a labyrinth of concrete barracks, blah, blah, blah. There, hundreds of supporters offered themselves up as human shields, cheering to newly minted dance songs about their adoration for their leader. Quote, house by house, alley by alley, the catchiest song went, quoting a Gaddafi speech, disinfect the germs from each house and each room. So, and the crowd included many women and children, and some said they had family in Colonel Gaddafi's forces. They said they had come to protect Gaddafi's compound from the bombing by volunteering to be shields. They said if they want to hit Gaddafi, they must hit us. We are all Muammar Gaddafi, said Ghazad Boutafa, a 52-year-old widow of a soldier from the Warfala tribe. Moving on here, Muammar Gaddafi calls for the world to unite against West. Gaddafi has called for the world to unite against the West's mad aggression. And he said, what did he say in the last article that I read from France with Sarkozy? Basically, Gaddafi said that Sarkozy is mad. Libya vows to halt attacks on civilians. Then Mullen, U.S. not after Gaddafi ouster. And it says Chavez, Libya airstrikes claiming civilian casualties or victims. Russia regrets Libyan invasion. Then Iran urges U.S. to reconsider policies. So those countries are obviously not for this, along with the American people, along with most Arabs and Muslims. So who is for this? You know, that's the question that you have to ask. Libya RAF comfortable with outcome of airstrikes, so they're comfortable with killing civilians, right? And then we have this: France denies plane shot down in Libya, so no plane shot down. Libya says UN resolution on no-fly zone invalid, and then we have this. Let's check this out. Here are the 11 countries at risk of becoming the next Libya. And now in the first one up, of course, Syria. And then we have what? Bahrain. Saudi Arabia helps to crush uprising. That's right, they've signed a pact to protect each other. Then we have Yemen, government brutally suppressing protesters. Saudi Arabia, the linchpin holding the Gulf together. And we have Iran. Could Iran try to move on Bahrain? And right now they just pulled a diplomat from Iran. Basically, a Bahraini diplomat was asked to leave. And so relations between Bahrain and Iran have now grown cold. Morocco reforms already lined up. That's right, they just started new protests today. Jordan, King Abdullah tries to get ahead of the crisis. And moving on, Pakistan, democracy under threat as state remains unstable. And Pakistanis are very angry at the U.S. right now. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.